you know who I am, Geoff Diehl, running for the United States Senate, and I've been serving in the legislature for 8 years as a state representative from the town of Whitman. Anybody familiar with Whitman? Home of the Toll House cookie? Yeah. Claim to fame. Look, it's clear that Elizabeth Warren has a different view of serving as a U.S. Senator than I think most of us here in this room, especially, you know, I think my view, I think John's view is wholly different than what the Senator is doing down in Washington, D.C. Serving in office, I know that putting the constituents who elected me first is the most important thing. Taking care of you, your family, your children, your grandchildren, just your future, that's the most important thing. Whereas Elizabeth Warren seems to think that her future is the most important thing to take care of in the United States Senate. She's written 2 books on our dime. She's made over $1.6 million selling those books, and you know, that just doesn't seem to be prioritizing, you know, us here in Massachusetts. The other thing too is serving those who've served our country on the legislature. We passed Valor Act 1 or 2 up on Beacon Hill, proud to do that. And you know, I want to thank those who are in the audience who have served. I know you've served in the Air Force. Anybody else military, ex-military? Thank you for your service. Making sure that we take care of our veterans. Elizabeth Warren took 113 days to get in touch with someone, a veteran who had reached out to her from Lowell. That's unacceptable, and it made national news. Okay, making sure that we respect the first responders, especially the law enforcement. She went to an NAACP dinner, talked about how it's law enforcement that continues to terrorize the African American community, and that does not bring us together. That just divides us as a community. She seems to be mostly interested in trying to pit us against each other, whether it's men or women, Republican, Democrat, whatever it is to raise money for herself. That's what she seems to be about. But most, you know, importantly too, we need to make sure we put American citizens first. I am for securing the border. I am for making sure there's no such thing as sanctuary cities in Massachusetts or in the country. And we've got to make sure that that's a priority down in Washington. Elizabeth Warren is for open borders. She is for sanctuary cities. And it seems like she's more focused right now on running for the White House in 2020 than doing anything for Massachusetts. That's not the leadership I don't think, well, I know we all didn't vote for that, but that's not the leadership I think anybody expects for Massachusetts. And somebody who knows a little bit about leadership is a guy who works in Gillette Stadium. Actually, he was in Minnesota this last weekend, Bill Belichick. This last weekend notwithstanding, you know, he really knows a lot about success, obviously. He wrote about the 5 keys to successful leadership, and I like to talk about numbers 4 and 5 because they're most relevant to this campaign, in my opinion. 4 is that you need to care about everything that's going on in the lives of your team, whether it's your staff, the players' wives, their kids, the problems they're having. If you care about what's going on with your team, that's going to create that bond that will help you succeed. And that, again, is why I think I've been elected 4 times down in my district. The last 2 I've been unopposed, even though the Democratic Party chair lived in my district. Not happy about me winning back in 2010. But, you know, I've voted the way that I think is the best for the people of my district, for the people of Massachusetts, regardless of party. And that's what is important to me. And the other thing, number 5 for Belichick, is don't rest on your laurels, okay? But, you know, I'm not going to rest on the laurels of winning a 2010 rep race that nobody thought I could win. Again, it was a district where it had been held by a Democrat for 14 years. The incumbent was vice chair of education, had voted, by the way, for Common Core without any hearings. It was great to win and defeat him and change the path of my district, as well as be a voice on Beacon Hill. And we collectively did not rest on our laurels after we worked together on the ballot question in 2014. I know a lot of folks here collected signatures to get that on the ballot. I remember distinctively standing on the steps of the State House with the press, and they were laughing when we said we were going to use an all-volunteer group of folks to get the 70,000 signatures we needed. We ended up collecting 120,000 signatures across the state. We were outspent 31-1. You guys may remember the AAA logos on the commercials telling us not to vote yes on one, but we still voted to repeal that index gas tax because we proved that Massachusetts was wasting a ton of dollars, tax dollars, and yet they wanted to go to us to have that tax go up every year automatically without a vote. Last I checked, this was the state of no taxation without representation, so there should be no tax that goes up without a representative vote on Beacon Hill. We won that issue, and we actually outperformed the governor's race by 50,000 votes. When Charlie won, we actually exceeded his vote count by 50,000. So it wasn't a Republican issue or a Democrat issue. It was a household issue that a lot of folks came out and wanted to vote for. So I want to thank you all for the work you did then, and certainly didn't rest on my laurels. My wife wasn't thrilled because she was hoping I'd have a summer with the family, but I ended up working on the Trump campaign in 2016. He won a primary with 50% of the vote in Massachusetts, and he was able to get his largest margin of victory until he hit his home state of New York. And just quick for numbers too, in the general election, he didn't contest Massachusetts with any resources, but he still got 1,088,000 votes. That's more than Governor Baker got when he was elected in 2014. So just so you know, the votes are out there for someone who wants to actually make a change down in Washington and try to represent the people of this state. And so that's why, you know, I'm excited about this race. I think that there's a real change out there. In fact, I think if Elizabeth Warren a year ago probably thought that this race couldn't be lost. But now, if you ask her and you start looking at her unfavorability ratings, that landscape has changed dramatically, not in her favor, okay? So I've been campaigning for, I think now it's almost 9 months. We have an RV. I didn't bring it tonight because we have to make some quick stops, but we have a big old RV, and we're traveling all around the state talking about the fact that, you know, she's not working for us and she's not listening. That's pretty much what I hear from most of the people I talk to, whether it's teachers or small business owners or veterans or firefighters, police, you know, just families. They are tired of being ignored by Washington, and especially tired of being overlooked by Elizabeth Warren, who is, like I said, at this point, purely focused on running for the White House in 2020. In fact, this last weekend, she was in Texas raising money for herself. You know, back in August of this summer, she had said she's focused August 4th, every day I'm working for Massachusetts. I remember this because a weekend later, she was in Georgia speaking at one of those progressive left netroot conventions where they were talking about how to resist at every level down in Washington, D.C. That's not what we need, okay? Elizabeth Warren's had her time. She hasn't been listening, but I have been listening to you. I want to make sure, like I said, that we secure our borders. You know, make sure that sanctuary cities are gone. Boston, especially, cannot be a sanctuary city. You've got to have local law enforcement working with federal officials to make sure it's not just a public safety issue, like we've seen with Matthew Denise, who was killed by someone who should have been deported. It's also a financial issue. $1.8 billion annually in our state is spent on those who are here illegally. $113 billion federally supporting those who come to our country illegally. We need to fix immigration. We need to fix it yesterday, okay? And then the other thing, too, is making sure that we continue with the gains that have been happening with the tax reform. 80% of Massachusetts citizens are now going to see a federal tax reduction because of the tax reform that Congress passed. We are seeing companies in Massachusetts giving bonuses, giving pay increases, investing in themselves and in companies to expand and make sure our 401ks are in good shape. So the fact of the matter is, Republicans are doing their job. Elizabeth Warren is down there purely to be a vote against every piece of progress we're trying to get done. And I'm looking forward to the opportunity to work for you down in Washington, D.C., to actually have a seat at the table with the White House, with Congress, a Republican-controlled Congress. Right now, it's all Democrats serving us in the congressional delegation. Nobody has a seat at the table. So I've been listening to you folks. I want to continue to hear what this is all about, but also at the convention, I'm going to need your support. I'm hoping that if you become delegates, you'll be willing to support me. I also brought with me these brochures. In the middle, there's a tear out. You can send a way to get a free lawn sign sent to you, and I have bumper stickers too. If you haven't gotten them, we can get you a bumper sticker. But I really appreciate you coming out tonight to hear us speak, and I look forward to winning this campaign against Elizabeth Warren, whoever the candidate is, and doing it together. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Do you want to take any questions, or is that it? Good?
We're just grateful you came.
Oh, all right. Thanks.
I wish you had the bus, though.
Yeah, we'll bring it soon. Thank you.
I wanted the bus.
Thank you, Geoff.
Thanks, guys. Take care.